All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Ready, camera,
Go.
talent. Ready, camera,
And cue talent.
1.
Roll for record.
The already crowded GOP field gets even bigger, but Fox decides that 10 is enough. I'm John Phillips, and this is The Rundown. Yes, we have no less than 3 new contenders: former New York Governor George Pataki, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham are all jumping into the race for 2016. But they might never see the light of TV cameras because Fox News has decided to only allow what they call the top 10 candidates into the crucial first debate, which they're hosting along with Facebook. Fox says they'll take an average of the 5 latest polls to choose who gets into the top 10. And if there's a tie for 10th place, then it turns into lucky number 11. That guy will get a spot. Some rightly see trouble ahead for the GOP with such a large number of presidential hopefuls, and there are simple practical considerations of how to best run a good substantive debate. Fox News analyst Howard Kurtz said, yes, it's arbitrary, but someone has to draw a line.
Fox announced this week that the top 10 candidates, as judged by an average of national polls, will participate in that debate. Now, if you've been paying attention at all, you know that there could be 17, 18 candidates, and some are saying, well, you know, you shouldn't set an arbitrary rule. Okay, you try having an hour-and-a-half debate with 19 candidates on the stage. What, everybody gets to speak for 22 seconds? Even with 10, it's going to be pretty crowded up there. So I think that Fox News, faced with this situation, and it does say that the people who don't make the cut will get some additional airtime later, have to find some way to limit it.
But is it right for a news network to take it upon themselves to decide who can run for president? Remember, those 5 latest polls don't exist in a vacuum. A lot of who comes out in the top 10 depends on how much coverage they get on Fox News. Joining me to talk about all this is author and political satirist from his home studio in the great state of Texas, Mr. Scott Ott. And joining me here in sunny Southern California, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor, Stephen Cruiser. Scott, let's begin with you. Actually, we'll begin with both of you. But Scott, you get to talk first. Let's go through the list of these 3 that just jumped in. Lindsey Graham, George Pataki, and who was the third? I've already forgot about that. Santorum. Do any of them have a chance?
Oh, that's not for me to decide.
Yes, it is. I just asked you the question.
No. Do I think they're ultimately going to be the nominee? At this point, given the facts that we currently have on the ground, no, I don't think that any of it. In fact, I was stunned when I read the news this morning that Rick Santorum was getting in. That kind of came out of left field for me. I really didn't. I thought that maybe he had realized that that his previous 2 attempts that he lost for good reasons. And I like the guy. He's not a bad guy. But I think the problem we have is there's no such thing as a 10-person debate. There's no such thing as an 8-person debate. These aren't debates. If you want to call them they're not even panel discussions. They're just an opportunity for people to all get on the same stage. And what they'll do is by that point, we'll know who the front runner or front runners are. And so the little puppies will be nipping at the heels of the front runners and trying to constantly stir up a fight with them so that they can get relevance. It's an embarrassment. And I think the RNC, frankly, if it plays any role, should step in and say, you know what? If we need to have 10 candidates and give them an opportunity for airtime, and we like to have the contest at a debate, why don't we stage this like The Voice or The X Factor or something like that? Why don't we pair up people against each other and have brackets? Everybody loves those brackets, and allow them to compete in that way if we have to do it that way. Now, I would argue that most of those are a sham and a show, too, and not substantive. They really don't bring the voter things that they can use to help better understand for whom they should vote.
All right, Cruiser, do any of them have a chance?
No, they don't have a chance, but I think they should be allowed to debate. Fox. Welcome to the drunk, bad barbecue family that is the Republican Party right now, okay? Here it's like we've got this deep bench. We've got all these fringe guys coming in. What the heck? Let's make it a party. Instead, the one media outlet that's friendly to us is now going to partner up with Facebook for a debate, which just partnered up with the New York Times. And now it's going to no. I think in the social media era where messaging is so crucial, the greatest thing ever is to get all 19, 20, 6, I don't care how many candidates, put them all on one stage, ask them a key set of questions and really limit the answers. Give them 30 seconds, cut the mic. And the ones, it's a war of attrition, then the ones who can actually start to connect in 30 seconds will be the best ones for the general election. I'm the opposite. Get as many on there, but make them, cut their damn mics. Enough of the rant, don't do what I'm doing right now. Cut my mic, John. That's what you need to, I'm Newt Gingriching you right now.
So wait, so Scott wants to turn it into The Voice and you want to turn it into The Survivor.
A Survivor, but if it's The Voice, I want one of the chairs. I want to turn around and just, but I would like Survivor.
You want trap doors too, don't you?
Tasers. So, you
just want to hit the button and then the trap door opens and then all of a sudden Mike Huckabee falls to North Korea.
But I think that if we actually, because Scott's right, they're not actually debates. They're never going to be debates. They have to be, can you answer a question well? Yeah. And it's media training, and that would be the best way to do it.
But here's the problem with that. Now, you've done a lot of these cable chat shows.
Yeah.
And if you're on, say, one of those Friday Hannity panels where they have 25 people sitting there in the bleachers and everyone's fighting for airtime, it's not only, I think, bad for the viewer, it's bad for the participants because everyone is stepping on everyone else. Yeah. No one gets a chance to make a point. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for all parties involved. If you have more people than that or the same amount of people as on that panel in a Republican debate, don't you turn it into a frustrating telecast for the viewer?
Is 14 more frustrating than 10? No. I mean, it really is arbitrary. How is 10? If you've got one guy here, you're already going to be bored and annoyed when the other 9 are talking in a 10-person debate. So no, I don't think it's any more. I think if it's tight, tightly controlled, it has to be tightly controlled. Put them in soundproof booths so they can't hear what the other one's saying and
now
they can't
respond. A family feud.
Yeah. No. Give me 1 week with the Republican Party. Yes.
Stephen Cruiser is filibustering and wrong. The reality here is there are a lot of people who would like to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I actually qualify in the weight class, however, I have no experience boxing. There are a lot of people who would like to do that, but they don't put them all in the ring at the same time. That's not entertainment, it's not enlightening, it's not helpful in any way, and you don't really find out what you get is you find out who is the best at sniping and heckling. You don't find out who is going to be able to go nose to nose with the Democratic nominee and be able to hold their own in that kind of a battle. And so I'm very serious. They literally should go to some sort of bracket system. And if that means that the guy who's leading in the polls or the woman who's leading at the polls at the time needs to face off against 6 or 8 of his opponents one-on-one, that would be much more useful.
How about this? If Fox is the one that's sponsoring it, how about taking all the candidates, whether it's 10 or 15 or 20, and having them each do a sit-down for 20 minutes with Bret Baier, and you air 3 a day for a week.
Much better.
And then you post them online, and then you can go back and watch the interviews that interest you. And if somebody is a breakthrough star, then those interviews will get linked everywhere on social media. And you make it a week-long process instead of something that happens in 2 hours.
That might work better. The real problem here is in the number of debates still that they've done, because they're not really debates, as Scott said, and they're not really media-friendly ever. You look at the DNC already. What are they, 4, 6 they've sanctioned so far?
Something like that.
Because they know what their lead candidate is like in front of a camera, so they're going to minimize the damage there.
They canceled one debate because it was past Bernie Sanders' bedtime.
Yes. But I want you to remember, everybody needs to hearken back to 2012. Both of the Fox-hosted debates were awful for the Republicans. There weren't a lot of friendly questions there. It was basically the same social issue crap, gotcha garbage that was being done with CNN and except for the one glaring Stephanopoulos, you're going to ban all birth control. But those were pretty bad, too. So I think I'm all for limiting the exposure, or if you're going to not limit the exposure, then make it a free-for-all, one or the other.
All right, here's the last question. I want both of you to answer it. Scott, we'll start with you. If you could have a 30-minute sit-down with any of the candidates for PJTV, which one would it be? Which person would you like to pick their brain for 30 minutes?
Scott Walker. No doubt about it. In fact, I just finished this morning reading Scott Walker's book. I actually have a copy of it right here. From 2013, he wrote this book called Unintimidated, which is an account of how he dealt with passage of Act 10, which was that collective bargaining legislation that also freed people up to not have to join unions if they were working in the government. And what I would like to do is find out how Walker thinks that kind of experience could translate to the federal government. Because at the federal government, you're not dealing with collective bargaining issues by and large. Federal workers aren't unionized for the most part. But if you, how can you translate that experience, that practical political experience, to the national stage, working with the legislature, working with foreign allies and enemies, and what do you see that as meaning to your hopes of being president, if he has hopes of being president?
Who would you interview for 30 minutes?
Rubio. I'd try to pin him down on immigration, and then I would like to talk communism with him a lot too. I think it's time we're going to need some strong anti-communist sentiment on the right again soon, very soon. And I would like to talk to him about that, his his story of his family, and maybe why the differences, as is pointed out by so many on the left, why so many Cubans are conservative and so many people from parts of Latin America and Mexico are not conservative when they get here, and have someone who's not you, me, or Scott and Lily White talking about that.
I think I'd sit down with Jeb Bush, and I would try to figure out his motivation for running for president, because I don't think the guy really wants it.
No,
I think there's some other motive, whether he thinks it's his destiny or that's what governors in the Bush family seem to do, or some reason other than a fire in the belly. I don't think he has a fire in a belly, and I think if you try to pin him down on that, you might get an interesting answer.
You need to get a psychologist with you to probe the daddy issues there.
There we go.
Why he can't make daddy happy.
We'll see if PJTV will spring for that. All right, you've heard what we have to say. Now it's your turn. Is Fox right to limit the debate to 10 contenders, or is this an example of the media taking too much power on themselves? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.